Hello, I'm Maria Ressa. Welcome to Talk Thursday. Joining us today is Alan Sun. He is the managing editor of Yahoo in Southeast Asia. He'll talk to us about how technology and the internet are changing societies in Southeast Asia and about what Yahoo has in store for its readers and viewers. Welcome to Rappler, Alan. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for the invitation.
Well, it's always so good to talk to you about these things, and it's great now to talk about it. You are also on Twitter, right? It's at Alan Sun. So
that's correct.
So send in your questions, and he's always on.
A little too often.
let's talk about it. I mean, a lot is changing in Southeast Asia because of technology. What are the biggest trends that you're seeing today?
Well, there are obviously a whole bunch of trends going around content and content creation, and you guys are a big part of that, right? This is an amazing set, by the way, just because of how you've been able to cobble together bits and pieces to make something work on the internet. And you're not the only ones who are trying to do this, right? So in every country, you see small startups that are going to the content space, which is amazing. The cost and barrier to entry has significantly come down over the past 5 years, and so you see a lot of new studios coming up. So the content side of it is definitely exciting, and the other side, of course, is mobile.
Yes.
I think there's just a lot of emphasis on it, and the most interesting thing about mobile is that the book hasn't been written on it yet.
Correct.
No one's figured out what's the right way. So, you know, there's a lot of great messaging apps that are coming out. There are a lot of great e-commerce apps that are coming up as well. So we're seeing a tremendous, burst of energy, if you will, in the internet space here.
Yahoo is going through its own changes. I mean, it's
Yeah.
been in this space far longer than Google. I mean, in many ways. I mean, what is Yahoo going through right now?
Well, it's been a really remarkable year under Marissa Mayer. She's come on board and she said, look, we got to clean this up. Let's start afresh, right? So what does a new Yahoo look like? So we're imagining a new Yahoo that's very focused on mobile, that's very focused on video, and you'll see these two themes come up a fair bit. So over the past year, we've refreshed a number of our key products, right? So we like to think of it as our daily dozen. What are the 12 things that people do on a regular basis, right? So these things would include obviously emails, chatting with friends on Messenger, reading news, catching up sports scores. So all of these things have had a significant refresh over the last year. And if you look at the apps that have been created around these, it's really quite remarkable. We've introduced a lot of new technology that allows for personalization at a higher level that we've never had before. So this is very exciting because we're now able to take content 5 steps forward from where we were before.
Would you consider Yahoo a content company or a technology company?
It's one of those things. You can't say it's one or the other, right? If you're a media player these days, you have to be a tech company, right? You can't do media and content without technology these days because technology is driving the way people consume the stories, right? So you can't split the two. It's both.
And Marissa Mayer has, as you mentioned, she's come in, and it seems like it's a wave that's going through Yahoo. What is it like from the inside?
It's fast. It's tough. We're raising the bar on the way we look at talent and how do we hire the right people? How do we get the right people to stay? These things are very crucial to what we do. So you look at the number of people who are applying to get in. We've turned the ship around in the way we're attracting people. So Marissa talks a lot about these changes from a talent perspective. So with the right talent, you'll get to be able to you start building the right products, right? So we need people who can act fast. We're basically the world's largest startup in a way. So it's going back to ground zero, to year one almost, and rebuilding the entire company.
And what's changed really from year zero until now? I mean, in Yahoo's eyes.
Well, the clarity of focus, mobile and video, for one. The speed in which we're rolling out products is incredible. So we're in the back end, behind the scenes, all employees are part of a dog food program. So we're trying out new stuff as it comes out almost on a weekly basis, and it's exciting. Every week we got to play with something new that's completely different and just blows our mind where we're going.
And how do you compare yourself to do you consider Google your competition? How do you compare yourself to something like Google?
Well, I think we're obviously competing in some spaces like search, for example. But on the other side of it, we're also in a content side. We're also in a content business that they're not, right? So their understanding of content and ours is very different. So there are areas where you obviously compete, and there are also areas where you have the opportunity to partner up.
And being part of a global company, I mean, where is Southeast Asia in terms of global trends?
As I said earlier, the big shift has been in mobile, right? So,
Yeah.
so we're watching what's going on here, and there are a lot of very fast-moving startups that have entered the mobile space here. They're doing some really amazing work. So we're using this as a way to look at where small, nimble companies can go and learning from them. So obviously we're a big global company, but at the same time we're serving a very local audience here. So we have to find ways to keep up with that.
In each of the countries, because you're managing all of Southeast Asia, in each of the countries in Southeast Asia, what are the greatest challenges and opportunities that you see in each one?
Well, the challenge is, I think, largely infrastructural at this stage, right?
Absolutely.
We're still a ways away from that. So
Are
like
you
today,
talking like internet penetration rate?
internet penetration, or even the efficiency of the internet here. Like for example, trying to get online here, I was getting cut off on 3G a number of times on the way up here. So little things like that, right? So they're hungry consumers who want to get on, want to consume content, but haven't been able to do that on a reliable basis, right? So that's obviously probably the biggest challenge. And the second part is probably some regulatory issues that still need to be figured out. How do we deal with say user-generated content? How do we build the right boundaries and guardrails around these things?
Well, has any country in the world actually figured this out yet?
Absolutely not.
We're still, right?
Yeah.
These are one of the big debates. What about, I guess, are we as good, aside from the infrastructure, do you see us, are we as good as the Western world in terms of dealing with this new technology, or do we have a ways to go?
I think we all have a ways to go. I think Western countries still haven't figured it out yet, right? So there are a number of legacy types of regulation in a lot of these Western countries that haven't allowed them to move forward either. Privacy is a big one, right? And as you know, social media, for example, requires us to give up more of ourselves just so that we can get more back. So there are a lot of these things that are still being worked on that haven't been figured out yet. And I think Southeast Asia is no different. I think Philippines has a really interesting legacy in terms of promoting and defending human rights and democracy, which puts the Philippines, I think, at a very good position in terms of dictating how these things should go.
How would you compare? Well, Singapore has the highest internet penetration rate in Southeast Asia. I mean, how would you compare the Philippines to a country like Singapore in terms of using this new technology?
I think users are the same everywhere you go, and that we all want the same things. We're either looking for stuff online, we're either communicating with our friends, or we're trying to learn as much about the world around us. So it's either one of these three things, right? And I think these factors don't change as you move from one country to another. So I think the audience is still fairly similar that way. Maybe one of these things are balanced differently. This being a big SMS country and has had a lot of legacy in SMSs. So communication's big over here. And in Singapore, it's usually email or SMSs. It's pretty much the same thing.
How big a concern are in the Western world, for example? Privacy issues have really risen to the top, particularly after the NSA and PRISM and Edward Snowden has come out. How big a concern is this in countries like ours?
Well, I think it's almost sad because we look at the U.S. as the vanguard of human rights and freedoms, right? And I think this puts us it sends us back a few steps, I think. But that said, I think what we're waiting for or hoping to see is a country that comes out and says these are the right rules and regulations that you should have in place. It comes down to having the right guardrails in place that people can adhere to or believe in, and we haven't seen it.
You've talked about video and mobile as opportunity spaces. The danger spots that we need to look out for, what are they?
Well, I think the danger spots would be, obviously the same issues around privacy, same issues around, say, safety for young kids going online for the first time. Those are two big ones that stand out for me. And of course, the third would be, protecting freedoms, making sure that people have the right to expression.
Fantastic. We've actually gone through a whole lot of stuff. The last question I have really is looking ahead now. I mean, here you are, you're managing Southeast Asia for Yahoo. When you look ahead, say in the next 5 years, you've identified mobile and video, but aside from that, how do you think societies will be changed by these types of technologies? What are the greater opportunities?
Yeah, I think one of the things that comes up a lot is this whole echo chamber effect that we're seeing, and we see a lot of that on online and with social media especially, right? I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges, and I think this will change the way we learn as a society. And this is something that I've actually been very interested in. How do we as a society educate and learn and inform? A lot of things have been disrupted by technology, including teaching. So that's one area where we haven't quite figured out yet. How do we encourage kids to think about knowledge and to go out and look for it, right? So, there's a really great saying that we're swimming in information and yet we're drowning in a lack of knowledge or something to that effect.
Yeah. Lack of knowledge or wisdom, I think.
Well,
right?
there's plenty of information out there, but
how do you make sense?
How do you make sense of it?
Yeah. When is it chaos and when is
That's
it?
right. And how do you teach people to frame it? And I think this is a challenge for educators and internet companies like ours as well.
Well, the other thing is we were at this conference that looked at journalism. I mean, Yahoo is both a technology and a content company, you said. So how do you see journalism changing now? How is Yahoo going to help change this?
Yeah, I saw a really great quote this morning. It was in the New York Times, and it basically said, social media is just an information outlet, and journalism is what you do with that information, right? And I thought that was a really great way of framing the issue. There's just a lot of information out there. It is our responsibility as journalists to find a way to put that in context, and I think that gets harder every single day.
Fantastic. All right. Well, Alan, thank you so much for coming to Rappler and talking to us about these huge issues ahead. We have been speaking with Alan Sun. He's the managing editor of Yahoo Southeast Asia, about technology, the internet, and journalism, how all of that is changing societies in our part of the world. I'm Maria Ressa. Thanks for joining us, and tweet him at Alan Sun.